Hi guys, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Design and a Half. This episode is a little bit different just because I'm trying to also shoot video this time, so hopefully I'll be able to add this episode as a special video feature only on the YouTube channel. That being said, the subject of today's discussion, if you want to, is going to be educating people and especially users and consumers to be more mindful about how they spend their money, to be more mindful about products in general, and the fact that we actually need to do this going forward if we are thinking about how the social and economical situation is around us. So just thinking at the fact that it's a pandemic, most likely a lot of people have lost their jobs, have much less income that they used to have. They're struggling to find new jobs and opportunities, or they and if they did, perhaps they have some sort of lower income jobs. They don't find it as easy to manage with the financial situations that they did before. So this means they probably will look into being more mindful about how they spend their money and so on. And this begs the question, doesn't this actually mean all of us should probably think about how we are doing that? Doesn't this also mean that all of us should probably be more mindful about how we are spending? Because let's look at it from a different perspective. The way we spend our money creates the situation that we are currently in. And the situation that we are currently in is a situation in which we are forced as consumers to consume more in order to sustain the existing status quo of everyone. So basically this means that we're in a spin, and the kinetic movement and the force that put us all in through the spin, our wanting to be able to spend less for a specific product, our need to consume more just to be able to keep the price and the cost down, means that this is not sustainable for the long run. First of all, from a resource perspective, because resources are scarce right now. Second of all, it's from a product perspective, because as you can probably notice, electronics have started to become less reliable, and they are designed to be no longer as good as they used to be, in the sense that they are designed to break after a specific period of time, just because if previously they lasted you for 10 years, this meant that for 10 years the company was not making any money off of you, which means that nowadays they need to come up with faster and more frequent releases of products to be able to sustain the same amount of salaries and so on. And what actually happened was that productions were moved from Europe to Asia, or from the US to Asia, just because companies wanted or kept pursuing a more aggressive profit target. And what ended up happening was that jobs in Europe and the US on the production sector started to dwindle. Why? Because the offer that was made on Asia's side was so small that people here could just not compete with them. Besides, and in addition of that, there's also the factor that relates to the sheer amount of production power that Asia had versus Europe, and that was mainly due to the amount of workers they can produce to sustain that sort of need or that requirement from US and Europe, if you will. The problem this poses is the following. First of all, for starters, the salaries were really small in Asia, and that meant that basically most of the companies that people worked in were transformed into sweatshops. And sort of this is not necessarily different right now, just because some specific clothing brands, if you think about it, like H&M, C&A, Zara, and other companies, they are using the same sweatshop model as they did before, as other companies did before. So it's not really different. Nothing has changed from that perspective. The only thing that has changed is the resource and development. Research and development process, which has been significantly sped up to be able to spit out as much innovation in a very short amount of time as possible, to be able to create this new sort of, basically giving salespeople the ability to sell something new every year. And this is a huge issue just because people now are forced to be in a situation where you actually have to produce more income on a monthly basis to be able to afford products that usually took like 2 or 3 years to buy, or 2 or 3 years to save up money to buy them and to replace them and so on. So for example, a fridge used to last you around 10 years. And you could probably buy it in about 2 or 3 years after, I don't know, just putting money on the side and then being careful about how you spend it and so on, and having some savings. This is no longer the case. Fridges right now are becoming sort of not necessarily as expensive as they were before, but they are breaking down way faster, just because they're designed to break down faster in order for you to be able to buy a new fridge every 5 years or so. Just giving a ballpark figure. I'm not actually sure on this one, so please don't quote me. The problem with this is that if you're thinking it like that, basically what it means that the company no longer makes money off of spare parts. It doesn't make money out of service repairs and so on, just because it doesn't want to do that. It's more complicated to achieve rather than convince you to buy a new fridge every 5 years or so, or every actually 2 or 3 years. This is the same with phones, for example. People like companies like Apple and like Google and so on, all of them know that phones are really important for us. They have become the main driver for us. So there's this huge sort of race against the clock about who gets the biggest innovations in the shortest amount of time. And that's usually because one of them wants to be ahead of the other one on the market, so that they are able to get to the consumer as fast as possible. And why that is because basically both of them use the same technologies, and nowadays the innovation is no longer as much on the hardware side, as you probably noticed on all of the major new phones. It's rather on the software side and on the services side, which means that most companies are looking to sort of save a lot of cost to be able to save up money to use it or reinvest it into research and development. However, this is not the case for Apple, which is a different scenario, and we're going to talk about that one maybe in a special different episode just for Apple, because Apple is kind of a weird it's kind of a weird company out of the whole bunch. But getting back on the topic at hand, we're sort of, as consumers, we have the power to stop this behavior just by not being necessarily so greedy about buying stuff that we don't necessarily need. For example, if we're thinking about home appliances and things that are breaking down, the problem right now is that there's no longer any people or services in this domain of fixing things, nor do you have easy access to spare parts. And this is actually the main reason why a lot of products out there have been designed to break off very, very fast, just because nobody wants to have to deal with the hassle of having spare parts produced and so on. It's quite difficult. I'm assuming it could be quite difficult to control, first of all, and second of all, to market. And having been in a lot of companies which are selling both digital products and some even physical products, what I can tell you for sure is that a lot of the complaints that come from the marketing department in almost all of the situations that I've been through, even in digital products, the same thing comes over and over, and that's the one. It's really difficult to sell something which has just been improved, and it's easier to sell something which has new features, just because out of the whole bunch of things that you have, you're basically trying to put a focus and an emphasis only on the new stuff, and the sort of make it shiny and attractive, so that people, when they see your product, they're just going to go for that one, instead of just optimizing the overall experience across the board over your entire product. And I think this is actually bad from a design perspective. Why? Well, me personally, I'm a UX designer, but the thing is that I also dabble a little bit, and I've also studied for quite some time service design, and have looked into how it works, especially if we're thinking about the context of today, where a lot of people are using design sprints and design thinking more and more, sort of to educate the people in their company, and to improve the customer experience overall within their workplace. And the thing is that design thinking and sort of design sprints doesn't fit necessarily into that category, but design thinking is very much used into the service improvement and into the service design industry, where you actually need to be able to go back to the user, to be able to do a lot of research and talk to them and see and gather feedback and understand what the actual problem with your current service is, to be able to improve it, and basically rely on that improvement to continuously sell better products for the user. On physical products, this is not so much the case, just because there's sort of this weird mentality of a waterfall process. So waterfall processes, how they work is that you have this sort of initial stage where the development process begins, then you have the fall-off phase that goes into the design process, then into the production process, and then you have the sort of golden product, or the ready for release or ready for market product. And that's when the product gets actually shipped and is being sold. There's a lot of variables that come into discussion when we're talking about the release of a physical product, especially phones, for example, where you also have the operating system, and you also have the hardware parts. And the problem with that is that it's being affected by some of other situations that you as a company might not be able to control. For example, in my example that I'm going to show you, it's not necessarily a people problem as much it is a conjuncture problem. For example, in Apple's case, what happened was that when they prepared to release this new iPhone 12, the pandemic hit. That was a problem for them, because that meant their production got impacted, which meant they had issues to deliver the existing contracts for the iPhone 11s, for example, but they also had problems when thinking about the iPhone 12 as well, because that meant research is hampered, development is hampered, and so on and so forth. People are not working in their normal offices, and if you're just thinking about developers, that's okay, because you can go home and log into your laptop and work remotely. But it's not the same thing if we're talking about hardware engineers. They actually need to be there in the lab to be able to work with the hardware, to be able to see if it works, and to be able to test it a lot, and do a lot of dog fooding. By the way, if you're interested in dog fooding as a concept, please comment in my video below, and I'll make sure to add it to the topics of one of the future podcasts, if you're interested in the concept of dog fooding and what it means in design. Okay, this is sort of the reasoning behind why in some cases production is being affected by these whole sort of unforeseen situations. Okay, this being sort of a larger parenthesis, getting back to our topic at hand, which was sort of educating people into how to be more mindful with the products they buy. I would say that we need to think about how we use the products that we currently have, as well as sort of try to boycott as much as possible this whole idea of being being attracted to just the newer stuff just because it's new. The problem with new stuff is that it has a lot of unknowns for us, and in that sense, I think using the existing stuff that you currently have is not as bad. Additionally, thinking about the cost, for example, electronics have this huge problem with new stuff when it comes out, is the fact that it's super expensive. And the reason why it's super expensive is because in addition to that manufacturing cost, the marketing, the blah 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 blah, you also have this new cost which is basically a 5 to 10% on the original price that you just pay because the item is new. It's sort of the same situation that you have whenever you're selling an older electronic device to someone else, to a third party, like a second-hand device. You pay 10 to 15% less, or you actually get 10 to 15% less money just because of the usage of that particular item that you're selling forward. It's sort of the same here, but in reverse. You get more money just because the item is brand new and nobody else has it. The question is, do you actually need it? And this is where the critical thinking part of each person should come into play whenever we're buying new stuff. The question is, what is your personal usage scenario? Why are you buying that new thing? Do you buy it because you actually need it? Do you buy it because your old thing broke down? Do you buy it because it's new and fancy? Do you buy it just because you want to do a review on it? Sort of try to think about what drives you to just get the newest thing. Is it need, or is it sort of greed? Because, and this is a concept that's very much used in RPGs, in games. You have need and greed. Whenever I mean, some of you might be familiar with World of Warcraft as a game. In World of Warcraft, whenever you went into a raid, or you went into a party and you had killed some mobs, especially high class ones, if I'm not mistaken, and if I recall correctly, whenever you killed them, you had the option to roll need or greed. And it was sort of like a roll of the dice thing, that if you said need, it sort of tried to favor you if you're obtaining that option. And greed would be, I think, I just need it because I want it, that's it. But please don't quote me on that. I'm not really sure if that's exactly how the schematic, that's exactly how functionality works behind it. I might be off, so please don't kill me. However, this is where it originated from, and what I meant to say by that was that oftentimes we just we do stuff and we buy stuff, physical products or digital products, just because we were primed to it. We were pre-programmed by all sorts of subconscious messages, either by social media, either by printed media, either by sort of videos and stuff we see on the internet, that just tells us you should probably get this new thing. But the problem is that we never ask ourselves, why do we need it? Or actually seldom do we ask ourselves, why do we need it? In some cases we just buy stuff because we want to be up to date with the latest technology, and that sort of relates back to one of the previous episodes I had made, I think it was last week, related to early adopters. It ties into that part really well, and personally it bothers me that a lot of people have to be in the situation where you either are an early adopter and you sort of agree with the pitfalls of being one of the first people to try out a new generation of products, or you're a laggard and you use the version that's onto the market right now, and you sort of okay with the fact that you're not getting the very latest technology, but you're pretty close, plus you have the added bonus of a mature product. Not even mentioning the fact that this product that you're buying is sort of cheaper than the one that's currently being sold as the newest version. In addition to that, a lot of people I see buy a lot of stuff that is most likely pro level stuff instead of fitting for their needs, because I've seen, especially in my country, which is super idiotic and I freaking hate it, I see a lot of people spending thousands of euros on getting a phone just to be able to be on Facebook. Like, it drives me friggin' nuts to see that stuff. Some people actually invest money and do a lot of research into seeing whether some phones are I don't know, fit for them, just because they want to get the best fit phone for them, so they don't spend extra on that phone, on that specific electronics product, on that fridge or whatever it is that they're buying. They do a lot of research, they dig into on the internet and see, does it make sense, does it fit my usage scenario, and so on. And there's these types of people who are just buying it for the status quo. And those friggin' people who are buying it for the status quo are the actual core problem why these companies keep releasing products which are half-assed, second of all, are super expensive, and are doing it on a very frequent basis when there's no actual need for it. Because let's think about this. If any technological company out there would not be so forced or wouldn't feel as pressured to put out a product every friggin' year and have the development cycle longer, for example, like 5 years or 3 years at least, what would end up happening would be that we as consumers would have a lot of mature products. We have products that actually worked a lot better than they do right now, with fewer technical problems, with fewer sort of flaws, with fewer software issues and fewer software updates just to fix the existing problems. Why? Because there would be less pressure on those developers, on those designers, on those product owners, on those people that are working on those products to move as fast as they can. Because what ends up happening is when you're working super fast to output a specific product on the market, is a lot of corners get cut. It doesn't matter if you're Apple, Google, or what the heck you are, you'll always cut corners. And who's going to be the one who's going to draw the short straw in this situation? It's going to be us, the consumers. And we are sort of the ones that should be saying, I'm not going to buy this product this year because I want to make the company understand this product is just not mature enough right now. It should go back to the drawing board with the product. It should be making products which take longer to develop. I have absolutely no problem with Apple coming up with a new phone every 2 or 3 years, just because I would be able to put some money on the side to buy that phone and get the most value out of my existing phone. Just think about it. In 1 year's time, I don't freaking care who you are. Unless you're a CEO or CTO or whatever the fuck you are, you're not going to get your value out of that phone during 1 year. Especially if you're thinking about just using it for Facebook, gaming, and all that bullshit. No, you're not. Which means that in order to get the most value out of the phone, you need a longer period of time to dampen your initial cost. Because the initial cost is quite large. The same goes, for example, for hardware. If you're thinking about a PC or computer or whatever, in order to dampen that cost over time and be able to get your money's worth back, you need to have a long period of time where that thing that you just bought makes money for you and produces money so that it sort of covers its own costs of acquisition. This is another concept that comes from business, be able to dampen your cost. Dampening means whenever you buy something, that thing needs to make you as much money that it originally cost you to be able to completely sort of flush out the cost. Everything above that means that that thing is making you profit. So from that point on, after you dampen one cost with a specific item, you're free to purchase a new one. I know, get rid of the old one, whatever it is that you want to do. But up until the point where that thing that you just bought is not making your money's worth back, it's not worth getting a new one. It's that simple. It's super simple. And phones and technology is quite important for us. Even if you're thinking about a damn microwave machine, that's the same thing with those as well. For example, if I have a fast food company or a fast food car, and I'm just selling hot dogs and I'm just selling food that needs to be reheated, whenever I buy a $3,000 microwave, I'm making an investment. I'm making an investment into my own company. I'm buying something that needs to bring me $3,000 back within a specific time period. Whether it's 1 year or 2 years, that's up for debate, and that's up for the person who is doing the accounting to establish how long it's going to take for that to be dampened, the full cost to be dampened and reimbursed. But I digress. Getting back to the point at hand, we actually need to be thinking a lot more economically about the things that we're purchasing, especially those things which cost a lot of money. Just because money is not something that is going to be fine, is going to be infinite for some time. A lot of people are going to lose a lot more jobs in the coming future. That much I can be pretty sure about, and you can be as well. Which means that we need to be extra careful what we spend it on and how we do it. Personally, I would advise everyone in the coming year to make themselves some cash reserves and actually refrain from investing necessarily in stuff which cannot make them money or be a return on investment as fast as possible, just because if they do, the risk of them losing their jobs and not being able to use that sort of blocked money is quite high, to be honest. Like I would say that we have the power to change how these companies react to us as consumers. We have the power to teach them that we will not accept mediocrity and we will not be forced into buying crap from them, because we hold the one thing that they want from us, and that is the money. As long as the money is in our pocket, as long as we are the ones who are controlling the financials, they have to comply with us. Of course, we also need stuff from them, but we also need to be mindful about the resources that we have to be able to survive. And that means maybe getting a second-hand MacBook, just because the newest MacBook might not be so okay for you. That might mean getting a second-hand iPhone, and that's fine. Why is it so important to have the newest one? Why is it hurting your status quo? What is so important about that newest iPhone that is hurting your personal status quo? What do you want to get out of it? Because there's nothing specifically that can help you be better, or it is just one small thing that if you think that small thing is going to make your photography look amazing, you're wrong. It's not. If you rely on those 20%, you're probably the guy who's making YouTube videos like Marcus Brownlee, who buys a $5,000 to $6,000 camera just to be able to get a 10% increase in quality for his videos. But you're not Marcus Brownlee. The truth is, there's only one or two people like him in the world. Most of us, we just need stuff which is run of the mill. Most of us. So be more mindful of whatever it is that you're buying. Think about it twice and think about what you actually would do with it. Would you use it as often as you think you would? Would you get your money's worth in a specific time frame? Is it something you want to buy just because you want it for yourself, or do you actually need it? This is sort of the set of questions that people need to start asking themselves more in order to educate companies that we will no longer be accepting garbage in terms of products and paying a premium for it. And I think we all owe ourselves to be more mindful with how we spend our money, especially during this time. That was it, guys. I hope you liked this episode. Please subscribe and share with others if you liked it. I would appreciate comments, even if it's negative ones. I'm okay with that. That being said, have an amazing rest of the week, and hear each other in the next episode. Have a good one, guys. Bye bye.